Welcome to We Have Issues, a podcast where we examine important issues throughout the educational community. I'm your host, Joe Pizzo. Our special guest today is meteorologist John Marshall. His website informs us that, quote, for over 25 years, John has been on television where his accurate weather forecasts were seen by millions in the New York tri-state area. John delivered the forecast for Fox Weather, CBS 2, and WNBC Channel 4, all in New York City, unquote. John's passion is going to schools and having them become a part of John's weather tour. In a live assembly, students enjoy an active and vibrant education in weather. The mobile weather studio, also known as the green screen, is a part of the program. Students become weathercasters for the day. John has presented 2 assemblies at the Black River Middle School where I teach, and this fine gentleman has all the instincts of a veteran middle school teacher. He is a natural and very much at ease with the students in the audience. By the way, my students loved him. Before we begin our interview, I must mention that John Marshall is the recipient of the 2003 Alumnus of the Year Award in the Sciences from New Jersey's own Kean University. He has also received the American Meteorological Society, AMS, Television Seal of Approval. It is indeed an honor to welcome meteorologist John Marshall to my podcast, We Have Issues. John, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Joe, it is my pleasure, and what an intro! My goodness, I thank you. It's a pleasure being here on your podcast, and talking about weather and issues around weather and climate, and basically anything else we need to chat about this afternoon, Joe. Right?
Great. Now, you mentioned in the little conversation we had before we went on how you became interested in meteorology, and it was at a very young age. Would you tell that story again, please?
Sure. Way back when, I was probably 8 or 9 years old, there was a blizzard predicted. And during this time, in my childhood, I was always loving weather and thunderstorms and lightning and thunder and all of the fascinations with weather. So basically that evening, the day before the blizzard, I put on the news because I really didn't experience or have experienced what a blizzard was. So I would put on the Channel 2 weather person on at like 6:15, click over to Channel 7 at 6:19 p.m., Channel 4 at 6:21 p.m., Channel 5 at 6:23 p.m. Basically, I watched all these weather people within 10 minutes, and my parents looked at me and said, "Son, are you okay? Why are you watching all these weather people?" They knew that at that moment, they had a problem on their hands with an obsessed child with weather. I live and breathe weather. My childhood friends knew my passion and love for weather and my obsession for weather. They would come to me on the eve of a snowstorm or a snow event. I was in 5th and 6th grade, and they would say, "Hey, John, is there going to be any school tomorrow?" And Joe, nine times out of 10, I was right. And we didn't have all the computer knowledge at our fingertips. Heck, we didn't even have, I don't think we even had the internet then. No, we did not have the internet. I'm definitely, dating myself now, and here we are, same exact passion that I had in 4th grade as I am as a middle-aged guy. Nothing passion-wise has changed. A few wrinkles, a few less hair strands, but nothing has changed.
That's a tribute to you because you have that passion and you discovered it at an early age and continued on. So congratulations.
Well, thank you. I when I go to these schools, and you can attest to this, when I do the weather assembly, it's more than just about weather. I tell the kids that story and tell them that's how young I was when I fell in love with my career. All those years as a child, I wanted to be a weatherman. And I tell the students this, I say, follow your passion. Or if you don't know what that is right now, you may find it in high school, it may be college, it may be after, but I bet you can make a career out of it. And if you love what you do, Joe, you know this, it's not called work.
Exactly. That's great advice. Now, let me ask you, when did you decide that you wanted to be on air giving the weather?
It was a pipe dream through my teens and really early 20s. I graduated from college with a degree in meteorology, and I got a job with Al Roker at Channel 4 behind the scenes as his producer. In his contract, that's when he was becoming, a big item, success-wise. They had the little asterisk. He could have a producer that makes his weather maps, does his forecasting, because Al Roker, great guy. He is my mentor. He mentored me. So I got to Channel 4. I was right out of college, behind the scenes. I said, if this guy can get on TV, so can I. And we used to make weather tapes after the 6 o'clock news. So picture this: Chuck Scarborough and Michelle Marsh or Sue Simmons are getting off the set, and here I come up, this young punk with Al Roker. I'm just out of college making weather tapes, demos. I'm not on the air, just And I remember one time he slapped my face in fun. He goes, "Relax," and I breathed, and that was my best one. Sent the tape, the first tape. We got the job in Macon, Georgia. I wasn't making any money in Macon, but then he goes, "Take the job. Take the job." $16,900. That's what I was making. Yeah. Yep. And and then the rest, basically, from there I went to WYOU in northeastern Pennsylvania, in Scranton. All this time, Joe, I was keeping in touch with management and Al Roker. I went to his wedding. He married Deborah Roberts. It was in New York City, so I flew up from Macon, Georgia, to go to his wedding. You're not going to miss that wedding. You get invited by Al Roker, you're going to the wedding. And I wanted to. I mean, the guy and I had a great bond. And then I went to channel WYOU TV 22 in Scranton, PA, for 2 years, keeping in touch with management. And they called me, and I went to Channel 4 on air in 1998. And that was, the rest is history. I stayed there for 13 years. And then, you get an agent, blah, 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 blah. And then the business is very subjective. It's not all glam as it looks like. There's a lot of hidden little things going on behind the scenes, and it's called management. So it is what it is. I went to Channel 2, freelance for them for 10 years. In the interim, I formulated my business, and then ended up at Fox Weather, and I just hung up my hat this past fall. I'm like, what? I'm done waking up at 2:30 in the morning on a weekend. I appreciated everything that happened, everything that went on. Again, it's not work. Waking up at 2:30 in the morning, Joe, was work.
That's got to be tough.
Yeah,
that's got to be tough.
So, but my business is my business is what I'm doing now, and I've been doing for 10 years. I was doing Channel 2 and Fox Weather while having my business. So it was a lot going on at one time. So this is my choice right now, and I'm pretty happy with it.
Now, I know there are challenges when you get ready to report the weather, and there are always people saying, "Gee, I want to have that job because they can be wrong and they're still getting paid," and on and on. How accurate are most of these daily forecasts?
It depends on the projection of days going out. If you look at a 5-day forecast, tomorrow's forecast is going to be quite accurate as opposed to Sunday's. Yesterday, Memorial Day weekend, looked kind of unsettled. Today, the computer models, we're going to have this huge discussion on what that means. The computer models suggest it's not going to be as threatening. So now, what do I do as a meteorologist? You tone it down. It's still way out in time. You don't put specifics on it. Where a lot of people go wrong, Joe, putting specifics on forecasts 4, 5, 6, 7 days out. That's a big no-no. And that comes with experience.
Yeah.
That comes with experience.
Now, my colleague, science teacher Mike Stagg, whom you know, was nice enough to contribute this question for our discussion. He wanted me to ask you, what's your favorite type of weather, since most meteorologists have a favorite type of weather to forecast and observe?
Honestly, I've never truly experienced a full-fledged hurricane, so I cannot say that. All my years of doing weather and being a meteorologist, it has to be the beforehand of a blizzard, the lead up to the blizzard that's on the way. When I would hear the National Weather Service put out a blizzard warning, you had to strap me down. You had to strap me down because it's so infrequently used. So I so enjoy a blizzard. And I enjoyed forecasting it on television. I enjoyed being out in the field. I enjoy being home at my house experiencing it because that was rare until quite recently. You tell Mike, there it is. And I bet you he would probably agree to that.
Yeah. Now, what's your greatest challenge so far as a meteorologist? Is it making the predictions? Is it interpreting data? Is it just being overwhelmed with having to sort through things? What's the challenge?
Honestly, when I was on television, and this is honest to God truth, is getting into Manhattan. I'm being honest.
Anybody who's commuted knows that. Yeah.
Yeah, my challenge as a meteorologist all those years in New York City wasn't deciphering the information, but I will get to a point now that came to my head. Getting into Manhattan, obviously at 2:30 in the morning, never an issue. Never an issue. Here's the biggest challenge that I had. Making the snow amount graphic for the New York City tri-state area. You know, the 2 to 4, 4 to 6, 6 to 8-inch swaths. That is the most challenging thing that I have to put together graphically. That, because Joe, the wind blows off the ocean, and if Ocean County is by the ocean, the temperature pops up a degree. If that was a prediction of snow down there, 33 degrees and rain. Up north or even anywhere else, if that cold air seeps in further, comes down the pike a little more snow. Literally, that is the biggest challenge, making a snow potential graphic for 25 million people. Think about that.
Yeah. For those folks who may not know, what course of study did you have to follow to be a meteorologist?
Do we really have to bring all that up? Because it was hard. It was so hard. Oh my gosh. It's all calculus. When you think of a meteorologist, you don't think of them doing calculus and physics. You may think of them, you may think of them as taking a broadcasting courses or communications. I didn't take one course in broadcasting or communications at college. It was all meteorology. And thank goodness my professors liked me because the curve was there. Joe, I did equations of the atmosphere. I can't even describe what the heck I learned. It made sense at the time, but my gosh, it was so difficult. So difficult. Great professors at Kane. You know, that program, unfortunately, over there dissolved. They had a great program over there. And my alma mater, I'm always proud of them. I went back in the 2000s and, I talked at open houses, whatever the subject of the matter was at the time. You always have to give because you would want the same, it's a sense of wonder, life. It's a sense of wonder, and weather is wonder. It's all together with the nature and the power and the sense of wonder. I love what I do, Joe. I love what I do.
Now, given the fact that you have such a passion to report the weather, when you were on air, were you nervous before you went on?
In the beginning of my career, the answer is yes. As it went along, no and yes. No, I wasn't nervous. Not towards the end of broadcasting. No, I would have to say no. Were there a little bit of butterflies? Absolutely. But nerves, like, holy smokes type nerves. And that was there in the beginning. Heck yeah. No, but butterflies before every on air, 100%. And I think if you don't have the butterflies, it doesn't make for a good 2 minute and 30-second weathercast, because I think that keeps you up on guard and keeps that energy level up. Believe me, I don't need any more energy, but it keeps that level up. So yes, butterflies, yes. Those deep nerves, no.
Now, if you couldn't be connected with weather in any way, what would you do, or what would you have done?
Landscaping. You
Any
know,
reason?
yeah, absolutely. I love being outdoors. I love getting into the earth. I love planting anew. I like making, you know, the scape. What are these? I know that, bushes, and this flower is going to bloom when, and that flower is going to bloom late summer. This color is going to come out mid spring. Um, my landscaping at my house is, a lot of it is me. Uh, I love being outdoors, and there's something, Joe, about getting your hands in the dirt. There's something real about that. It takes me to a different place. I feel like this is more psychology than meteorology.
But it's people who report the weather.
Yeah, well, some of the people that report the weather shouldn't be reporting the weather, but they are.
What
Uh,
advice would you give somebody who maybe today is thinking, I might want to go into that field? I'm not sure.
I would say if they really want to do it, stick to your guns. Don't don't turn back. It's a tough field right now, because it's first of all, it's not paying what it paid, because the outlets are now on your phones, and the advertising rates have come down. Listen, we used to get our news from the TV
Right.
and the radio, and that was it. Yes, and a set of encyclopedias. Um, I No, stick to your guns. There's opportunity out there. There's opportunity out there. It's a tough business. It's cutthroat. You have to be thick-skinned. You need to know how to take criticism. It's very subjective. Somebody may like you. A new news director comes in. He doesn't like you. Get rid of John. That's just the way it is. Or they need XYZ to fill a criteria. Um, there's corporate involved, obviously, in this business of TV. And you have to
And
know
that's
how.
something. Go
Go
ahead.
ahead. No, you have to know how to not let that infiltrate your being. And that's what a lot of people, and that can happen. There's personal, and then there's business. There's a dividing line there.
It's difficult for some folks to make that distinction, and that's the challenge, and something that I think the students of the world need to hear, that it's not always your vision that you're going to be able to pursue. It's not always your idea or your concept that you're going to be able to realize. That when you work for someone, there are requirements, there are restrictions, there are deadlines and timelines and commitments, and certain types of behavior that are accepted and certain types that are not.
Correct.
There are dress codes. There are just all kinds of things. There are policies and procedures. And you
Yes.
need to know every one of those policies and procedures, because it's in a book. And if you don't know it and you have broken it, the old saying is, ignorance of the law is no excuse.
100%. 100%. I also feel as though uh, the times are different now as well, with that whole last few statements that you just said. I feel it's like a lot of people are walking on eggshells. Nobody says anything. We're becoming robots, Joe.
It's a little scary to me when you say we're becoming robots, because this whole thing with artificial intelligence and chat GPT and you name it, there's a lot of controversy, because the lazy side of humans
Mm.
says, well, I can just write a paper and hand it in, and the GPT will write the whole thing for me. But the more diligent and creative side says, you know what? I can ask this artificial intelligence to write a paper that I can then take, read, learn from, and put in my own style and create my own piece that shows my thought, my angle, my slant on things, my beliefs. And
Yeah.
I haven't heard that argument yet, and it's frustrating me because we need to see whatever we're dealing with as two-sided at the minimum. And we need to deal sometimes with both sides at the same time. That's the challenge.
Yeah, I mean, and on that note, is this, and just stepping away from weather for a second, is also the challenges, that division of what's happening in the country. The whole thing. I mean, everything is like, I don't say global warming. I just don't like the way it sounds. I think there's a political spin to it. Do I think the planet is warming? 100%. There's data to prove that. You know, but it's just amazing what we can and can't say. I think if we used our minds, as you're saying, and let your mind do the work, it's going to be okay. The laziness, I mean, it's going to be okay.
We forget that we have overcome tremendous odds over the years, and we're still in the process of developing into the people that we hope to become. And it takes a lifetime and sometimes beyond a lifetime to realize even part of that evolution. So
Absolutely, Joe.
It's frustrating to me as an educator to think that I'm trying to get a student to learn what is inside of their own heart and what's inside of their own mind, and
Right.
what's the key to putting those two together to make a tremendous and personal product, rather than Siri, can you fill in the blank for me?
Do you find is that very challenging right now? Is that a major challenge for you?
So far, it hasn't appeared. I'll be teaching in the fall a composition course at the college level, and I'm maybe running into some of that. And
Yeah.
I'm going to tell my students up front the same thing I'm saying here, that we need to look at the resources and understand that they are resources. They are
Right.
not the sources.
Right.
You use a resource to create a source, not the
Beautifully
reverse.
said. Beautifully said. Yeah. I mean, 100% agree with you.
Now, I've got to give you a little plug before we wrap this up, for going out and visiting schools. I'm sure there are folks who want to reach out to you, and maybe some who even want to ask you some questions. So how might they do so, John?
Well, you can always email me at john@johnmarshallweather.com. I know it's quite long. I'm on social media. Just put in the search bar, any of the socials, put in John Marshall Weather. I will pop up. I go to schools throughout the tri-state area. I was in Brooklyn twice, two different schools in Brooklyn last week. I don't, distance doesn't stop me. Distance doesn't stop me. And you want a different program? You want something that is valuable and memorable for your students? Give me a shout. The program sells itself. It's curriculum based. It's age appropriate curriculum, K through 8th grade. Talk about STEM technology as well. So it's a well infused 1 hour, Joe, of age appropriate curriculum, STEM technology, a little bit about a career advice, and it's a nice hour. It's a nice hour. I'm not lecturing the kids. We're having fun. It's interactive.
I can vouch for that, because the two workshops that you did for us, the two assemblies, were tremendous. And both adults as well as 6th, 7th, and 8th graders were entertained, were informed, and
Right.
felt a connection that you don't always get. I said to you before we went on air that it's a difficulty to come into a brand new building and have an audience you've never met before and be able not only to entertain them, but to hold their attention and to teach them something and to feel appreciated. And you're able to do all those things. I said it at the opening and I'll say it again. You have the natural movement, the natural feel, the natural presence and ambiance that a middle school educator needs to have. You don't just spew fact, but you connect fact to the personal side of things. You don't ever separate one or the other. I have never seen evidence of that in the times that you've been here, and I can pretty much guarantee without having to go out and check every single presentation you've done that it's true in every one of them. It's who you are. It's the way you come across, and God bless you for it.
Well, you know what? All I have to say is thank you. That was touching. It's I'm just being me, Joe. That's all it is. I'm just being me. In this life, you give back, and hopefully, I'm giving back a little bit of focus and insight to these students because they need it. They need it desperately, and hopefully, I make a difference. If one student came home that day, I've gotten emails from parents as well saying a lot of what you just said. It just makes me so happy. Making a difference in a student's life makes all the difference. It really does. You know that as an educator, and talking about something I love as well, weather, and talking about my career, because it's not something that's it's not something that's a common career. It's a very unique avenue, and to talk about it is even, I guess, more unique. But I never even really thought about it until just now, because I'm kind of like I may have been on television for 25 or 26 years, Joe, but I kind of like keeping things quiet. That's just me. A lot of people, my friends, would know that. Yeah, John's the same way he is on TV as he is sitting on the couch watching a game. There's no shtick, So a bit of realism and making a difference. That's all that matters. If I've accomplished that, I can put my head on the pillow pretty nicely at night.
I compliment you for not only making a salary, but more importantly, making a living.
Yes, I know what that means. 100%. You follow your dreams, folks. Passion, pound passion. That's it.
Hey, time for me to do the close. Meteorologist John Marshall, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to visit with us today on We Have Issues. We appreciate not only the insight that you have shared with us, but also your thoroughness and your dedication to your profession. And one more thing, the heart that you have shared with us today.
Well, Joe, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Every minute being on your show.
Thank you. Well, that concludes this episode of We Have Issues, where we examine important issues throughout the educational community. I'm your host, Joe Pizzo. Have a wonderful day.